A, you and I would normally be able to project our voices across the room, number one. And number two, you're probably like me, I like to move around a bit, and I can't because there's a camera up there pointing at us. So you're my, it looked quite cozy when we have a chat later, but you and I are going to be sort of, I will sit down in a moment, get out of your way, but if our patrol space is around here. Believe it or not, you've been name dropped quite a lot by me already. And I'm just going to give you, because you haven't had the benefit of sort of getting a feel for what we've been doing. So in this room are representatives from cities. And in certain cases, there's more than one rep, and they'll be in other rooms. And some of them are having meetings, and some are online. As you know, we've been trying to remind everybody that our Chinese friends are trying to be with us in spirit and online. And what we've been trying to itch for, which plays right into your sweet spot, is I think the metaphor that we've designed is sort of the iceberg. There are sports above the waterline that people would recognise, and those federations they would understand. And one of the things that's been interesting is several of the federations have actually been saying, my language, not theirs. We're kind of curious to find out, to go to places where we've not been before. I'm sure there are more cities. I think we've touched on this before anyway. But so one of the things that we've been trying to encourage people to think about over the last day, and whatever was the last day, is think about different sports and federations to engage with, where the overhead isn't crippling, not just being that the only motivation, but getting that wider footprint. And of course, we heard about mass participation just before you, so it's a very good sequence, whatever we call it, segue. And so really what we've been doing is starting to warm up into your space already. And I'm a huge fan. It's probably because we have an agreement together, which I'm very proud of. And I think you're going to find people's ears now are tuned up to the wonderful things that you're going to be talking to us about. So I just want to put it in a little bit of context that there's an element of, who would host it? But I hope the people in the room would agree there's an element also of, okay, these are things I need to think about. And education is absolutely appallingly, shockingly patronizing word. But I hope there's a little bit of that going on of, people when they go back to their management inevitably, trying to get sign off and come up with plans to host. I hope people will feel very much better informed about the market generally and new opportunities, as well as the specifics, Ian. So it's a very long introduction, but and by the way, as I did say before the break, Ian has gone to a huge amount of effort to be here today, right? Because technically he shouldn't be here, but he's made the effort to come. So please get your questions ready. So Ian, at that point, after a very long introduction, I'm going to sit down and let you get on with it. So.
All right. Well, Dennis, thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to assume that you are way more intelligent than I am and know a lot more than I do. Clearly, you're also better looking, so that's useful for the audience. So I'm going to talk about obstacle sports. We started this journey in about 2014, and I had come from somewhat of an Olympic background from my grandfather originally. He was a national federation in soccer football in Australia, from Scotland, of all places. But what I've learned over the years is that to create a valuable sport product, it requires a high level of broadcast traction and also value to all of the partners involved with that sport. And a lot of sports get it wrong, in my experience. They come in and they say, we are, name a sport, we should be in the games, and everyone should accept us because we're the greatest. And that's not how it works. I started this journey reverse engineering what sport looks like, taking the endpoints, and the endpoints starting variously with broadcast products, so television shows, if you like, in an old school linear sense, through to people seeing things in, say, a city centre. So with that, I'm going to explain what obstacle sports actually are. That's not us. All right, so our name is World Obstacle. That name has changed over time. It's structured somewhat like athletics, aquatics, cycling, and canoe kayak, which have multiple disciplines and events. Within the three pillars of our categories of events or disciplines are obstacle course racing, some of the commercial products you would recognize as Spartan Race or Tough Mudder, things like that. And then there's Ninja, most easily recognized as Ninja Warrior TV shows. Globally, it's actually Sasuke, that's held by rights out of Tokyo, which is Tokyo Broadcasting Systems. They broadcast in products in 148 countries. We believe there's about 1 billion viewers for this part of the sport. Not all on linear, but these days, of course, social is huge. So you see Facebook and YouTube and TikTok and all the other platforms. The other one's adventure racing. I'll explain more about that later. This is some of the things that you see within the viewership for the parts of the sport. This is where the reverse engineering comes in. So if you look at the number of participants of obstacle sports globally, pre-pandemic, we believe was about 30 million people doing it in about 140, 50 countries. That number's shrunk a little bit, obviously, for various reasons, because events kind of stopped for a while. In terms of traction, right at the start of the pandemic, in March 2020, when the events literally went cold turkey, shut down, we decided we would work with one of our partners, Spartan Race, and put on what we call a virtual physical event to see how people would engage if they were doing something in their own home or apartment, but competing globally. Our goal was to get 1 million people in 100 countries. We actually got 3 million registered in 120 some countries. So that was quite successful right out the gate. That developed into other things, but that was an experiment on our part early in the pandemic to see how people were engaging. Fortunately, as a very young sport, most of our population, the demographic is quite young, and they tend to engage almost exclusively on social media. So if you're doing something sort of virtual, they're doing it anyway. They've got their phone and they're doing selfies and videoing themselves. So it was not a stretch for them to then go and do a sort of a virtual competition. Ninja Warrior TV shows are in about 40, shot in about 40 countries, produced in about 40 countries. The number of views that those events, they're show competitions, they're produced, by the way. A good show in, say, the US as a market, which would be somewhat similar to Europe. In the US market, a good show gets about 7 million viewers for a show. Those numbers get much bigger when we take a show clip and put it onto a Facebook video. Over time, they can commonly accumulate more than 50 million views. The biggest number I've seen is about 150 million viewers of a show clip. And then an example in obstacle course racing, we have a product we developed for the Southeast Asia Games. That's an IOC recognized games, and that's a 100-meter head-to-head sprint. One of our national federations picked it up right after we had that in the SEA Games. So we had 6 medal events in the SEA Games. This was one of them. The National Federation did the 100 meters. They got 84 million views of that national event. So this gives us a sense for kind of the viewership landscape. Like other sports with events and disciplines, this is how it breaks down. It's kind of hard to follow. Think of it like athletics, where you have sprints, jumps, throws, hurdles, cross-country, etc. Mountain running, it's somewhat like that. And within our space, you'll see similar things. In Ninja, you've got the short things, 50 meters, 100 meters, etc. Head-to-head, difficulty like climbing, actually, somewhat similar to climbing, where they have technical things and they have speed things. Obstacle course racing, it's more like cross-country, can be urban. And those distances are more like, it's similar to running. These are mass participation events. Ninja is not. Obstacle course races, pre-pandemic, some got very big. The biggest race that we know of was in Germany, about 28,000 people in one event. So that's typical. World champs, we would cap at 10,000 people. And these are age group world champs, kind of like any mass participation sport. Adventure racing is an interesting sport. It was very popular about 15, 20 years ago. Actually had a very good run of about a 20-year run with large international broadcasts. The international viewership at the time was about 300 million. This is pre-social media, so these were television numbers. they did bring one back in 2019. It's the Eco Challenge, if any of you have heard that TV show. Also, Regoise. The origin is actually French. It's a French event. Then developed into TV shows all over the world. It evolved over time to become Survivor, which is still running today. Other spin-offs, Amazing Race was one of them. Those numbers were robust. These are ultra-distance multi-sport races. Anything goes, almost, non-motorized. Usually something on foot, something on a bike, something in a boat, and then strung together as an expedition. So you'd follow these mixed gender teams, men and women racing together. And the journey discovery was really interesting. That had very good television traction. That became a sport that is now well established, and we run all sorts of events. Now all of these, we have World Series, World Cups, World Cup finals, and World Champs. There's a third one, which is more like a games format, where we aggregate all the sports. Some sports do it, I think athletics does it every 4 years, where they'll have lots of stuff together from their disciplines. I think aquatics does the same. And that's us. And with that, questions and answers.
Questions. I think that, obviously the people are going to want to speak to you bilaterally as well. But can I just go through a couple of quick questions with you, which for the benefit of everybody here. So, what would you like these host cities to do, Ian? Would it just be beneficial to have a chat with you? Would you want an email to say, can we set up a proper call? Generally speaking, how do you like to engage with the cities here?
Yeah, it's a good question. Best, I think, to have focused meetings, because it's going to depend on what your city wants or needs or desires. We have, we call it a flexible framework. I think most IFs do. Our approach is developmental. We desire to establish long-term relationships with host cities and countries or regions that I think even by IF terms would be quite long-term. We're just having a discussion with the Brisbane about a 10-year term. And it could be any of the disciplines. So Ninja is a good one. We keep that very small, by the way. Our World Series is very big. We have hundreds of events. Our World Cup is very small. We don't want more than about 7 or 8 ever. And static locations. So once we've chosen those locations, we really don't want them to move. For those of you familiar with the Ironman World Championships, they built Kona. The town of Kona used to be a sleepy little tourist village on the big island of Hawaii. It's now a very big tourist destination because of the event. So that's a good model, because the athletes love it. They understand the location. You develop the locations as being iconic locations for that event. That's our goal. Ironman has done it very well. So that corporation, when it was a corporation, develops like Ironman Australia, Ironman New Zealand, and they became their own iconic locations. That's our model.
So I'm asking the questions and I hope in a way that's useful to everybody. So to boil it down, I guess there is the opportunity to break these individual disciplines down and select the sort of level of competition. And maybe if you'll unpack this and correct me if I'm wrong. But with this idea of having this enduring sequence of activities, which could, I guess, become regional. I mean, I keep on picking our friends from Norway, but who've not typically been to our summits before. But I guess they could become a regional hub as well, couldn't they? Is that feasible? Could they have regional competitions, or is that something that you would want to have a hand in?
Well, we do through our national federations. So the system, it's a big base for the national federations, and within countries, then national competitions. Most sports have this, right? So national competitions to a national champs, to a continental or subcontinental, to world. So we have this tiered system. It looks very similar to most of the other, actually, mass participation sports. Not so much little ones with tournament-style competitions, for some reason. Don't know why. I think mostly because of the numbers. So in obstacle course racing, it is mass participation. It follows athletics quite closely with like 5K running. So you see like 5Ks everywhere. They're not all part of a system. In our system, we do have it for, pick a country, Italy. National series, national champs, and this weekend, continental champs. And then we also have World Cup. So we put that above continental, because now we call it world level, and then leading to World Cup finals, and then separately World Championships. So they're all on the table, but I think most host cities would be interested in the high level stuff, like the world level stuff.
Yeah, the things that would perhaps might be eyesight catching. And when you've successfully engaged with people, what have those cities sort of fed back to you? Hey, the reason why we wanted to do it, or when we did it, we got this impact back. I mean, is there an echo coming back at you? That's a fair, clear pattern?
Yeah, there is, Dennis. It depends on the city. Some are interested in multiple events, which would have, say, Ninja, which is what people watch, OCR, which is what people do, and then Adventure, which showcases a city. Adventure racing is an interesting one. It's really I would call it a broadcast product. Our conversation with any host is, what do you want to show? And it can be cultural, historic, culinary, geographic, historic. I mean, it can be any of these things, because adventure racing is this journey of discovery through something, through a country. And historically, it could be multiple countries or regions, or kind of focused around an area. I'll use the city of Quebec as an example, because they're very interested in this, is that Quebec is the oldest city, European city in North America, and it's got this beautiful history and cathedral. I mean, it's a gorgeous city. So they want to showcase what is the city of Quebec. And that is very interesting for us, because we can design an adventure race around whatever that is and wherever it goes and however you want to do it. Adventure racing is anything we want it to be, which is what makes it really interesting.
Thank you for your presentation, first of all. I have a question. What is it that you expect from a host country or a host location in terms of, I don't know, prize money, investments or not, and where are the rights? Because obviously it's your event.
Well, I'll start from the back. So rights, in terms of broadcast, we like to leave that with the country. So we have all broadcast rights, but we would say they're yours. We will promote in the rest of the world through international. Broadcast is most pertinent when it comes to Ninja. There is an existing broadcast system. There's the 148 countries under the rights from Tokyo Broadcasting Systems, but they are a partner of ours. So one of our development partners. Also, the Ninja Warrior name specifically is under rights through Tokyo, TBS, and we keep all of our development partners like American Ninja Warrior for you guys. The CEO is on our board. We do the same with Spartan Race. It's the biggest global OCR company by far. The owner is on our board. So we make sure that we don't infringe anyone's rights, and that we allow the ability for a host to have some of this in that territory, because that's that side of it. And the start of the question was, what do we want? Our goal is to demonstrate value to the host. So once we demonstrate value, we can proceed into the longer agreement. The goal is to have a very long agreement, ideally in perpetuity, so that we develop something collaboratively, and as the value increases, everyone gets a benefit. That's our goal. We're not out there with a big rights fee saying you're going to pay us $1 million and see you later. We go in the opposite direction. Low fee, and we can negotiate that with VIK and demonstrate value for everyone. And if it works, we go ahead, and if it doesn't, we say thanks very much, we tried. Never had to do that, by the way.
Small question on part of that is prize money.
Prize money. Well, sport is an interesting thing. You don't see prize money in the Olympics. It is valuable. It actually it can attract the right athletes, which is necessary, because we need the influences. We have a relationship with our top athletes, which is to use each other to promote. Like a good ninja, for example, can get big numbers on social media. Our AAC chair for Ninja can see tens of millions of views on a TikTok within minutes. So they're useful, because then we can work together to promote collaboratively. Prize money, it's more important for us to bring our athletes. So prize money's nice, I mean, it looks nice, but the reality is it's only going to go to a few people, so it doesn't really benefit anyone except them. Their benefit is maybe a bit of prize money, but travel and accommodation and things that cities find easy to do, because you have that. Is everyone a city here, or is it regions, cities?
Yes, regions and cities.
Regions and cities. Yeah. Ni hao ma, China.
Yeah, you've got a lot of Chinese friends listening. So, other questions? I'll just take. Ian, apparently I'm told we're a bit tight for time. But is there anything else? And obviously, you know, we always say that we have to respect that certain cities would rather be a bit more private. Look, you cannot meet a more open person to speak to than Ian, if I may say so. And he's a great visionary guy, and we've only just seen bits of it. And actually, there's a lot behind his motivations for what he's doing. You need to really understand. I think if you get that, you've heard him say he's not pushing things on the city in the classic sports event. There's a lot. He's got a lot of. I'm trying to find the right term.
I've had a lot of mistakes. How about that?
I think you've got a lot of very sincere. I'm not wording this very well, but you've got used to that by now, I guess. You've got a lot of very sincere, really value-driven things behind what you're doing, and you're very passionate about the growth of this.
It is. It's actually worth mentioning. If you dig deeper into what we do, we wish to elevate all humans through sport, which is kind of the IOC. It's the Olympic movement, but we do it in spades. If anyone's interested, we can give you some examples about what we've done in countries like Tanzania and the Philippines, and where we truly elevate people for completely altruistic reasons. And that's part of it. That's what we want to do. We help with health and wellness and building a bridge in a village and helping a tourism economy in Tanzania. We do that kind of stuff because that's what we're supposed to do and what we want to do. And this is an amazing platform to do it. So if you're interested in that part of it, we can have another conversation.
Yeah, I think you should have that. You know, if people want to, I think it's definitely worth getting into that, because it aligns with a lot of the values that the cities are looking for now as well. And so we really could keep this conversation going for a long time, but I promise that Tupou will kill me if we do that.
How much we out, Tupou?
We're out, apparently. But is there any final comment you'd like to make, Ian? Otherwise,
I do.
As a friend of the she is now going to kill me, but it's fine.
You can kill me too. You can kill both of us.
No. She probably would, yeah.
Absolutely necessary from our side to mention, if you've been watching the Olympic news lately, we have a close relationship with pentathlon. We're developing an obstacle event with pentathlon, testing for post-Paris. So that conversation can extend a little bit further with the discussion with our colleagues from Modern Pentathlon.
And you have a relationship with mass participation and that sort of thing as well.
We do. MEI, who you just heard, we have a good relationship with them. So we're about relationships and developing them. We like friends.
Yeah, definitely worth a big conversation. And if it can't be here, I know Ian will find the time to speak to you when you're all back and rested, because you're getting a lot of information in. But the clarity, as always, was there. The vision's there. And we just thank you very much indeed for going to the trouble you did to come here. It's very much appreciated.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for this. Perfect. Thank you.